If you're studying for the AP Lang reading the sample essays College Board releases, you are only doing half the work. Here's something most students don't know. College Board also releases something called the Chief Reader Report. And this report tells you exactly what scored the point and what didn't, even in those perfect 6 essays. Today, I am walking you through the 6 most important things from the Chief Reader Report that can actually improve your synthesis score. If you're cramming for AP Lang, this is the shortcut you need. Hey guys, welcome to or welcome back to CT's AP Cookies. Over the past 7 years, I've helped hundreds of students score a 5 on the exam. I've studied the test inside out so you don't have to. Without further ado, let's get started. 1. You're answering the wrong prompt. Look at the 2024 synthesis prompt. Develop your position on the value, if any, of laws designed to preserve buildings deemed to be of historic importance. Most students read this and think, should we preserve historic buildings, yes or no? Wrong. The question isn't asking whether preservation is a good thing. It's asking whether government should regulate preservation through laws, or should we leave it to private organizations and the market? Notice the phrase, laws designed to. That's not declaration, that's the entire question. Here's a similar question from the same year. What are the most important factors for cities to consider when regulating mobile food service establishments? Again, the keyword is regulating. The question is about government intervention, not about whether food trucks are cool. If you miss this in your thesis, your essay is most likely capped at a 4, even if everything else is perfect. So here's your strategy. Read the prompt carefully. Check the prompt again when you're wrapping up each body paragraph to make sure you're actually answering the prompt. 2. Writing well isn't just about writing. The Chief Reader Report says this: the responses that earn the sophistication point suggested a student who is insightful and critical as reader and skillful and deliberate as writer. Notice the order: reader first, writer second. You can't write sophisticated arguments if you haven't read sophisticated arguments. This is why I keep saying reading and writing are not separate skills. Students who've done close reading of high quality op-eds don't just write better essays. They also answer MCQs faster and more accurately. The ones who've been reading score 10 to 15% higher on MCQs and finish 5 to 10 minutes faster. Here's what not to do. Spend all your time grinding practice essays and MCQs without reading anything substantial before the test. Here's what to do instead. Even in your final month of cramming, keep reading. Read quality op-eds. Annotate them. Ask yourself, how is this argument structured? What makes this evidence compelling? How does the argument demonstrate complexity? Input drives output. You can't write what you haven't seen. Number 3, you need to write counter-argument well, not just write it. I've been saying this for years. Writing a counter-argument doesn't automatically get you points. The chief reader report used to encourage teachers to teach counterargument. But now that everyone knows this trick, the bar has been raised. Here's what the report says now. Those with lower scoring responses fail to fully address a counterargument, fail to offer a rebuttal, or lack organization, moving back and forth between their argument and counterargument without control, contributing to a faulty line of reasoning. Here are 3 ways students fail at counterargument. 1. They mention it without fully explaining it. For example, some people think preservation laws are bad. Isn't a counterargument. It's just acknowledging that opposition exists. 2. They don't rebut it, bringing up the other side and then just moving on. That weakens your argument, not strengthens it. 3. They ping pong. I think X, but some say Y, but I think X. However, Y also makes sense too. That's not nuance, that's confusion. Here's the structure that works. Number 1, state the counterargument clearly and fairly. Number 2, acknowledge what's valid about it, if anything. Number 3, explain why your position is still stronger. Number 4, make your sources have a conversation. The Chief Reader Report rewards students who read synthetically, organizing a line of reasoning by recurring concepts drawn from across the sources. Translation: your sources should be in conversation with each other, not exist in isolation. Here's what weak essays do. Body paragraph 1 uses source A, body paragraph 2 uses source B, body paragraph 3 uses source C. Each source gets its own paragraph and they never interact. Here's what stronger essays do. One body paragraph uses 2 sources and you explain the relationships between them. For example, let's say you are arguing about the value of rewilding. Source A says rewilding is good for children's health. Source B says cities do not have space required for rewilding. Source C says some city implement successful rewilding. Source D says rewilding is good for mental health. The weak approach would be paragraph 1 cites source A and source D to make an argument about health. Paragraph 2 cites source C to make an argument about its feasibility. And your thesis argues for rewilding. Strong approach. While source A argues that rewilding is good for children's health, source B points out that it is impractical given limited space in cities. But the impracticality does not apply to every city, as source C shows that some cities find smart ways to use their limited urban space. That is how your sources are talking to and even fighting with each other. That's the true spirit of synthesis. So to set yourself up for the sophistication point, do this for each body paragraph. 2 sources, 1 clear logical relationship. Number 5, stop thinking in binaries. The report says teachers should encourage students to avoid simply arguing for or against an issue, promoting critical thinking about the range of possible positions. Most students think essays are support or oppose, yes or no, black or white, but real arguments live in the gray area. Here's an example. The prompts ask, should cities regulate food trucks? A weak thesis would be something like, yes, cities should. And here's a qualified thesis. Cities should regulate food trucks to ensure public health and safety, but overregulation that favors established restaurants over mobile vendors stifles economic opportunities and should be avoided. You are not just saying yes or no, you are saying yes to this extent, no to that extent, and here's where I draw the line. If you've watched my video on the argument essay, you'll notice that for both synthesis and argument, the structure for a sophisticated thesis and line of reasoning look exactly the same. Qualification shows sophistication. It shows that you understand the most real-world issues, don't have simple answers. Number 6, commentary is not restating. This is the most common problem the Chief Reader Report identifies every single year. Many students struggle to explain how the evidence supported their claims and merely restated or summarized what they've quoted. This shows that, or this means that, the reader might hear, this is the conclusion I came to without really thinking very deeply. Here's an example of weak commentary. The evidence says, as of 2010, 27% of college graduates were in jobs related to their major. Weak commentary. This shows that college education is useless. That's your first reaction. And in writing, your first reaction and your first thought is usually your worst thought. Slightly better commentary. This means that what students learn in college isn't useful for their careers, so college isn't a good investment. Still, it is surface level. It doesn't show that you're arguing with yourself. Strong commentary. At first glance, this seems to suggest that college is a poor investment. But consider an alternative take. The fact that 73% of graduates successfully transition into fields unrelated to their majors suggests that college develops adaptability and transferable skills, precisely the qualities needed to navigate a changing job market. This evidence paradoxically supports the value of broad-based college education over narrow vocational training. So the difference is that weak commentary repeats the evidence. Strong commentary interprets the evidence in a way that isn't obvious. If your commentary could be written by someone who didn't think about the issue, it's not commentary, it's repetition. There you have it, the most important tips from the Chief Reader Report. The sample essays show you what a 6 essay looks like, but the Chief Reader Report tells you which part of those perfect essays you should actually imitate. Before you go, if you're watching this less than a week before the exam, don't forget to check out my MCQ series. At this point, the most efficient way to have an instant boost is to focus on the MCQ series. And if you're struggling with essays and want personalized feedback, I offer essay review services. Details in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next class.